Hello flight simmers and VR enthusiasts. I am constantly getting asked how I do my recordings in VR. So today I'm going to show you guys in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, although this methodology will work with just about any sim or game that you use in virtual reality, with the exception that you are using OpenXR. Stick around and we'll talk about it. If you are interested in any of my tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, consider joining me on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future guides that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Alright guys, so we jumped in the cockpit here to make things a bit quieter. I'm going to walk you guys through what I use, why I use it, and some tips and tricks and things to be aware of when using it, and the requirements in order to use this. So first off, what do I use? I get asked all the time how I do my VR recordings. I know that the most common theme out there, most commonly, people, what they'll do is do the mirror source on their monitor, usually upscale it to like 4K, and then using OBS or whatever the recording software is, crop it down and zoom it out and fit it. I use something a bit better. I use what's called OpenXR OBS mirror. So it is designed specifically to work with OpenXR and OBS, and what it is a direct API capture of the video feed going directly to the headset. It still has the same limitations the monitor does, where it only captures one eye. But with the resolutions being so large, you can still get, I mean, like I said, you guys seem to be enjoying my VR content when I do it. So those are the two requirements. I love how there's an airliner parked out there. He would never be parked there, by the way. We're on the general aviation ramp. Anyway, so the requirements here to get started with that is you're going to need the OpenXR layer OBS mirror, and I'll show you guys that in just a second. You do have to be using OBS. Anything else, like for example Meld or anything like that, isn't going to work with this yet. It's not an option. Speaking to OpenXR, if you are using the latest version of Pimax, the Pimax Play software, OpenXR is built into it already, so you don't need to install OpenXR manually. Just if you're using Pimax, you have it in use. It's being used as we speak. Second thing, OpenXR Toolkit used to be a really handy tool because you could use a tool that was called post-processing, which was inside of it, which would help stop some of the head shaking, the minor movements that we make when we talk or if you sneeze or whatever, things like that. Unfortunately, the developer has literally posted on their site that it is not recommended, or no longer recommended, to install OpenXR Toolkit. Just because it's no longer supported as of October of 2024, and the newer games and releases, they're noticing some bugs with it. I have chosen to uninstall it because I got to get used to it. Eventually the time will come where it will no longer be usable. I can tell you that in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 it still is, and that post-processing feature is still an option if you guys want to use that. But I have not tried it in 2024, so use at your own risk, and it basically says that on their website, and that's the OpenXR Toolkit, not OpenXR or Pimax XR. Pimax XR is no longer required as long as you're using the Pimax Play software. OpenXR is natively built into it. Speaking to OpenXR for just a minute, make sure that you guys go to their website, and I will have a link to it down in the description, and there's a red flag you want to read. If you have any pull or reach out to developers, make sure that they are not using the Meta OpenVR. Meta has, and I'm not surprised by this at all given Meta's history, he's you-know-what, in my opinion, an epic one. So this doesn't surprise me at all, but unfortunately it sounds like Meta's OpenVR in newer development games and games that are currently being developed for VR using Meta's OpenVR is now blocking OpenXR. For those of you who may not understand why that's such a critical thing, OpenXR provides by far the fastest API integration to these games to the headset, meaning that you get the best performance in both Oculus, Steam VR, Pimax, doesn't matter. you get the best performance in VR currently using OpenXR. And I think the real reason is because it's so lightweight and it's not filled with a whole bunch of advertisement garbage. Steam VR just isn't supported very well. It's a pretty crappy piece of software, and Meta is owned by, or Meta is Facebook, so why wouldn't it be filled with crap? So anyway, in case you guys are wondering what my opinions are on Meta, anyway, that's why I don't really use Facebook very often. But anyway, so just want to throw that out there. I'll have a link to that if you guys want to read all about that, but it's pretty crappy, and unfortunately, it's putting OpenXR into a condition where it may die. And that would really, really suck for VR users. So if you're a VR enthusiast, you want to read that and spread the word. Okay, anyways, so now let's talk about, we've talked about what you need. So you need OBS, you need OpenXR. Those are requirements. You have to be using OpenXR as your API. So if you're most commonly using Steam VR, you can still use it. Steam does have the ability to switch the API from Steam VR to OpenXR. You just have to install OpenXR manually if you're not using the Pimax, and any version of Pimax. It doesn't have to be the Crystal. Okay, so now let's go ahead and show you guys what this amazing tool looks like. So if we jump on here, I just realized we're going to display capture. I'm going to close that. There we go. Come on. So here is the OBS plugin for OpenXR layer OBS mirror. You want to come down here to releases. You can go to the latest release. I've been using the latest beta. It's working wonderfully. You can see all that it did. And that's the beautiful part, is this is still lightly being supported, which is really nice. You can see it was updated by the developer just 2 weeks ago. So I am super happy to see that this is still being supported, because it's super helpful, as you guys are about to find out. Okay, so next, go back to the main page and you'll have the instructions. You need to complete both of these. You need to install the OpenXR layer, and you need to make sure that you install the OBS plugin. Okay, make sure that you do both. If you miss one or the other, it won't work. If you find that it's not working, check your properties and make sure that it does not show as blocked under the security tab. And if it does, just simply select unblock. Guys, I've been using it. There's nothing in it. It's not bad for your computer. Been using it for a very long time, since before my channel blew up, if you will. Okay, so anyway, that's how you get that. So once you download it, you'll download it, put the download into a file of your choice or location of your choice, install it to the directories that are shown here, okay, and the plugin to wherever OBS is installed. OBS, by the way, typically you do want it installed in the C drive. You're going to get the most performance out of it. Now, with ridiculously fast computers and modern processors, you're probably not going to notice much of a difference if you haven't, but it is recommended to be installed on the C drive for direct access. Okay? Anyway, moving on. So now, and you guys please forgive me, I've never done a video like this before, so I'm a little... Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and get that set up. So we're going to go to add a source. We're going to find OpenXR mirror capture, and we're going to launch that. It's going to bring up this window here. It does have the ability now, by the way, to record both eyes. I know I said a minute ago that it was right or left eye. It now has the ability to do both, and I had not got that. So that is new. So I'm sort of excited. We might try that here together. So let's go ahead now and switch the system into VR. My display capture so you guys can see it. There we go. So you can drag these sources down below. So this is my display capture right here, and this is the OpenXR. So you can move those around, but what we can do with this one is I'm going to show you guys here, and then I'm going to actually move it and do it, is you're going to want to right click, go to transform, and you can fit to screen, because it's going to be very large, because it's going to be based on the resolution of your display. So for example, when I put that back up, it's going to cover everything. I'm now going to right click in the main viewing window, select transform, and select fit to screen. And there, now you guys should be more or less seeing what I am seeing in one eye. Okay, now this is where it gets weird, and this is where I said another person is very helpful here, but you can sort of do something like this. Okay, then come in, center it. Okay, and this is where we can start using this tool here. Let me get OBS off here for a second. This makes some of this a little bit easier to see. And we're going to be using this source here, so I'm going to move the VR source down below the display source again. And this is exactly what we're seeing in the right eye. Now, what we can do is you can play around with the both. I have no idea if there's any frame rate, but you can see there's a blend option. So let's go ahead and try that. We're gonna try this. And what you're seeing here is that this screen is merging over, right? And what we would ideally want here is for these to be overlapped, is how that's going to work. See how they're getting sort of more on top of each other? See, I don't really like that. And we'll play around with the eye blend a little bit. I can see what it's doing, and I think if you played around with it and spent a lot of time on it, that might be okay. I'll have to see. Maybe I'll do a later video on how to get this crisp, but I think for right now we're just going to stick with one eye. For flight simulation, I typically do the left eye. For like driving simulation, I typically do the right. All right, so here's what we're going to do though. What we're going to do is we're going to come down to cropping. So we're going to hit OK. We're just going to leave that as is. I'm going to bring OBS back up here for a second. I'm going to select the OpenXR mirror. I'm going to go to filters, add filter, crop, and pad. And like I said, this is where it really helps to have somebody else with you, because I'll tell you right now, this is not comfortable. Another neat trick that you can sometimes do, and I'm going to show you guys here in a second because we're going to try it, is you can sort of, I'll give you guys a couple tips. So what you can do is you can do something like this. More or less get it close to your eyes. You know, your relative eye position. Extend it out forward too to where it would actually be resting. Okay. Come in here. Hit your shift key to alt and then alt tab back out. And by doing that you get a much better idea of what it's doing. And now we can come in here and crop it. So your biggest crop points are going to be the top and the bottom. So let's start with the top. We're usually seeing way too much of the top than what we want to see. So I'm going to reduce this by probably, let's start with 1500. The bottom, same thing. We're going to probably start with like 800. There you go. See, we're getting closer to more of what we would normally see. Okay. On the right, seeing a bit more than we should. Let's start with 500. And even on the left, we're going to take some out. Let's do like 900. Okay. And then in OBS, what you're looking for, and this is where this gets really hard to show you guys on the display capture. So you guys are just going to have to understand what I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to be sizing the screen so it fits. We want to crop this image so it fits nicely inside of our recording canvas. Okay, let me turn this camera off now so you guys can understand. So I'm going to switch it, but this is the only way for me. You can see how it's taking up like the middle of the screen. We don't want that. What we want is for this source to be in a nice square or rectangle where it very comfortably fits in here. And we don't want to do that by squishing it down here. We want to crop it to where it's a nice rectangle. So we're going to take more off the top. So let's take this up to like 2000 now. Now I'm going to turn the display capture off now. Okay, and let's turn the 2D off now. There, so you guys can see what's happening here. So now we're getting closer. And a good way to check is to sort of use the empty space as an example. So now I'm going to start stretching it. You guys should see this image getting bigger, because you still see the whole canvas. But you can see that there's a whole bunch there on the bottom. Okay, so that means vertically... Oh, wait, actually, maybe not. We just about have it. If anything, we will add a little bit more to the right. So let's make the right our right cropping was at 500. We're going to take that to like 450. We're going to reduce it and give it a little bit back. And then we're going to hit close. And now, when we get into our display, I'm putting the headset back on now. Centering it. As soon as I get into the sim. There we go. And there we go. That's what we should be seeing. Okay? And there it is. Let's see, let me see what we ended up with. Let's put our display capture back on. Let me get OBS out of the way now. Let's do our previous video. Here it is. This is us starting. Let's come back over here. And you can see right about there is where we ended. So you can set it. And the other thing that I'll do is I'll adjust the seat position. You can actually hit the zoom, zoom in and out, zoom back. There it is. That's what it was. And there you go. So there you have it. I hope this is a good tutorial, guys. I tried. This was really awkward for me, trying to show it, explain it, having the right screens up. I know that was kind of a mess, and I hope you got what you needed from it. Try the both eyes, try the blending. I will be playing around with that a lot. I will tell you again, this helps a lot. If you have another person. The last tip that I will give you guys is that when you are recording VR, be really conscious of how much you move your head. So what I will catch myself doing is that when I talk, I'm usually a very animated person when I talk. You guys have seen me. I do things like this, and I'm talking. Dude, 2024 is having some issues today. We're not even in VR right now, and it's lagging today. It's having some pretty significant performance issues. Anyway, I digress. You want to really try to keep your head motions very, very static and smooth, right? Stay static when you're static. Try to keep your movements when you're looking around to a much more smooth nature versus, otherwise it makes the viewing experience a little bit too dramatic, and I know that I'm guilty of it. It's a really hard thing to break, and it's a really hard thing to be conscious of, because even when you're talking, if you watch your nose when you talk, like, I know that sounds silly, but that's what I've been doing. Watch your nose when you talk. If you can see, or like I'm watching the bill of my hat. Sometimes just sit there put a hat on. I want to know how many of you do this, by the way. Tell me in the comments how many of you are doing this right now. Put a hat on or something, and then start talking. Say rubber baby buggy bumpers, and watch how much the bill of your hat is moving while you're talking. The catch to recording in VR is that if you're seeing your hat move, so is the headset. Okay? And which means if the headset is, so is your recording. So it is something that requires a bit of practice. You have to really learn, and I'll give you guys some tips. The trick is to talk softer, to talk slower. The slower you talk, the less animated your face will be. And you'll find that when I'm usually doing recordings in VR, unless I just don't care on that, like I'm excited about that video, whatever, and that's not a concern to me in that particular video, you'll hear me come way down, and I will become far less animated, and it becomes very drab, very Ben Stein, if you will. Okay. So anyways, guys, again, I hope this video helped. If I can think of any other tips and tricks, by all means, I'll share them down below. If you guys have any tips and tricks or any other tools that maybe I'm not aware of, let me know. I'm always looking for better ways to do things, more efficient ways to do things. I will be playing around with that dual eye blend. I have not used that before, so I think that's going to require a lot of tweaking. The thing that I wasn't liking about the tweaking was that every time you tweaked it, it had to refresh, and so that makes it really hard. It's a lot easier to work with tools like that when you can see them live moving in, and you can see what they're doing and sort of find your targets. So that's going to require a bit more training on that. I have never seen that before. I just reinstalled OpenXR layer for this video. I went through the whole process again, so that's new. So I'm really stoked about it, but I'm gonna have to play around with it and see if it's worth it, because I'm still willing to bet in your recordings, I'm willing to bet you're gonna see a division line. And the other concern for me about using that both eye recording method is that if you come into, even at any point during your videos, if you hit any kind of performance degradation or performance lag or GPU lag, I'm willing to bet that you'll see that separation. So we'll see. I'll have to play around with it. But for right now, stick to the one eye is my recommendation. If you do happen to test with the Pimax Crystal Super and find a good blend, let me know what your settings are. I'd be interested to try them. As always, guys, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.